Well, so I got my new license plate this morning and I just can't. I can't. As many of you know, I turned 40 this year and I was recently diagnosed with an autoimmune disease. You might not know that. And I've been struggling for the past 2 years to take charge and be in charge of my body. And for anyone with chronic conditions, they'll understand how much that means. Okay. But it's like nothing is working the way that it's supposed to. And as much as work that you put in, you're not getting what you expect. Anyway, on top of that, this morning I woke up with swollen face. I have seasonal allergies kicking in. And so I feel like I've been punched right in the face. And then the mail arrives and I finally get this plate that I've been waiting on because it was late and it took weeks and weeks and weeks. And I needed a new license plate and I did not want to get a new license plate. Um, at all. And I was like, I liked my old license plate. I finally had it memorized. And when I went to do my new tabs, they were like, no, you need a new license plate. Yours is like over 10 years old. And the new plate says, ew. So no, not today, Satan. I refuse to have my license plate for the next decade of my life. So for
Not
my
today, Satan.
40s, say ew. I will not do it. I won't. I refuse. This is ridiculous. I am not going to leave the next 10 years. Ew. I'm not going to be ill. I refuse to be ill. So I don't know if you can honestly take a license plate back. Um, and I'm not normally this person, but I am. I, I will get a personalized plate if I have to, but I will not be ill for the foreseeable future. I just won't. Nope. No. So take that back, universe. I won't do it.
Mm-mm. Oh my
I've
God.
accepted, I've accepted 40 with no complaints. I've accepted my autoimmune condition. Well, with some complaint on that one. I have
Fair.
accepted the allergies I woke up with, both food and seasonal that I have allergies. And I've accepted eating clean for over a decade, minus my soda that I just had today that I rarely ever drink.
Oh my God, is that root beer?
It is. It's Barks.
Oh my
I got it.
God.
And now this is how much I drink. I got a pack for Christmas for before Christmas. And this is finally the last one. And
Oh my
we're in
God.
April. So, I don't really drink soda and I'm excited about this. But
Oh
yeah,
my
so
God.
I normally eat super clean, drink water, do all the good things that you're supposed to do. I have accepted all the house projects that I have had come up. I have accepted the crazy expenses that I've had come up. I work really hard and all of the other things in my life. And I will keep pushing forward on all those things, but I will not accept you as a license plate, Hannah. I won't. I will not. I called my dad immediately and I was like, I told you that I didn't want to give up my license plate because I knew that something like this was gonna happen. I had watched the Seinfeld episode where Kramer gets Ass Man as his license plate, and I was like, I don't want to be Ass Man. I don't want to give up my plate. And here's what I get. I get stuck with ew. And I was just like, no. So tomorrow, DMV, be warned, I am coming. I am gonna be as nice as possible because I know if it was just like, oh, I don't like these letters, then
Yeah.
I would probably not be, complaining as much, or I would just accept it. I wouldn't go down there. I'm not that type of person. But
Yeah.
this is where I draw the line is drawn. I have drawn the line. I will take a lot from the universe, but I will not take an ill, because that's like a first impression when people
That
see you.
is.
And I
Oh
don't
my
need them
God.
to be like, yup, ew. I want something to aspire to. One of our coworkers said hot 40, like this is my hot 40s or something.
Yeah.
I don't care if people see the plate and go, nah, she's not. I'm okay with that, but I will not take ew. No,
Yeah.
no way. So,
It's so
um,
bad. The
I
fact
am
that it's
now,
spelled EUW too.
yeah,
It's not just ew. I had to add ew.
ew, ew.
Yeah, no. Yeah,
No, so I'm not keeping it. Yeah, it was ew.
no.
And then it was 696. And the first thing my boyfriend says is it looks like 666, but it just got flipped. Like it's a secret 666. I'm like,
Oh my
I'm not.
God.
I'm just not. I'm not.
Yeah, no. I think that's a
So,
fair assessment, and that I'm so glad you're getting it fixed, but I hate to say it, that was the funniest thing I've heard in like 3 weeks.
yeah. Okay, well, I'm kind of worried that if even if I have to get a personalized plate, it's going to take like I don't know, a week or something to get to me. I'm gonna have to drive around with you until I get the new plate.
Oh my
I'm not
God.
keeping it though. I refuse. I will
Yeah.
order it tonight if I have to. If it'll save me the trip to the DNV, I will, because I looked it up and they won't take it back, supposedly, unless it's damaged. And so my dad was suggesting, like, just like, oh, mine got damaged when I like backed out of the garage and I like tore my trailer plate. And I was like, whatever I need to do to tear this plate, to break it,
You
whatever. I
should.
don't know if that's illegal. I'm so sorry. I won't do it if it's illegal, but like, I will not have you on my record.
Drive over
We're
it with
gonna,
your car.
yeah,
Squish it.
I installed this and then I accidentally backed it over. I'll take that. I will whatever. And for anybody that's wondering, I can't turn off this auto zoom. It just likes zooming in on me for some reason. I don't even have a face on my shirt this time. So,
Oh
but
my
anyway,
God.
I am accepting suggestions for personalized plates. Anyone can send it to me. Feel free to send it. Hannah, what would your personalized plate be if you were gonna get one? Maybe I'll steal your idea.
Slay. If I could get one, it would be Slay. And then I don't know what the
Would
numbers
you
would
be
be.
worried that people would wonder if you're like a Santa impersonator?
I mean, I didn't even think
I know
about
it's a
that, but that
different
would be
spelling.
concerning. That's true. Like if I do like SLAY, like people are gonna know it's up. And I feel like I would need to do like funny numbers with that, but there's really
Funny
no
numbers. What are
funny
funny
numbers.
numbers?
I don't know. Oh, I could do like 34. I do Slay 34 because 34 is my favorite number.
Okay, that's not a funny number though.
Yeah, that's
It's just
not a
okay.
funny number, but it's like my favorite
Okay,
number. I have it actually. I'm
so
not
really
meaning to piss
weird.
you off, but I have it tattooed.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
No.
It does look like you're flipping me off though with your 34.
I'm so
So
sorry. It's
sorry
like
to
coming
all the
off.
watchers of our podcast. Um, Well, as you know, you're listening to Millennial Meets Gen Z 90's edition, the only podcast where this stuff happens. But the one where one of us grew up with the 90's and the other one is discovering it for the first time. We are still discovering. But
Yeah.
I'm Allison, the Millennial.
And I'm Hannah, the Gen Z.
And today we're diving into another episode. So, before we get to our movie of the week, I had Hannah watch one of my favorite Friends episodes. Hannah, you've seen Friends before, right?
Yes, I haven't seen the full series in like chronological order, but it was the type of thing that like my mom would watch and I'd watch episodes with her.
Okay. Um, it would have been reruns that she would probably be watching when you were
I think
born.
she would
But
record them. I think she would record them
okay,
when that
the
was like a
recording the
thing.
reruns probably because when it was on, there was no recording, I don't think.
Yeah, no. This was
So,
like early mid 2000s that she was doing this, and it was like
okay.
obviously before streaming services were like huge.
Yeah,
So,
back when
gotta
we were
record.
all, yeah,
Yeah.
recording. Okay. Um, well, so what do you think of Friends and who's your favorite character?
Okay, so I love Friends. Okay, also, I am so from what I've heard, I've watched like a lot of TikTok edits on it on like the
Okay.
ending and like figuring out what's going on. Some of the romances I don't really like. I really don't like. I do like Monica and Chandler though. I think they're cute, but like I'm not really a fan of like Ross. I don't know. I don't know. Him and Rachel, they kind of irk me a little bit, and I know that's like a big part
You
of the show.
Yeah, you gotta watch the whole season though, because like, yeah, they're a little annoying in the beginning and maybe they're a little annoying in the end, but like the middle is really funny, especially when they like accidentally get married and then he doesn't,
What
and
the-
spoiler, but he doesn't tell her right away that he finds out that they're still they found out together that they were married, but then he doesn't tell her right away that like he was gonna get it annulled and then he like doesn't. And so he doesn't tell her that he didn't get it annulled, and she just assumes he takes care of it.
That's
And that
awful. I did not know that.
that is actually hilarious when you watch the episodes. So like I highly recommend
Oh.
watching it through. And you'll fall in love with Ross because he's just like stupid. Like he does the most he's supposed to be because he's like the professor, like one of the most like smart people on the show, but he just is the most ridiculous people on the show. And you'll appreciate that when you watch it. And then Rachel can be like fun and funky and annoying, but she can also be like very snarky and very
Yeah.
like I mean, she has to put it with Ross, so and his shenanigans. So like, yeah, she's really good and she's beautiful. Everybody normally loves her. So I get that, but you really need to whole series is just incredible. Um I've watched it probably 100 times. I mean, not really. I've probably watched it maybe 20 times all the way through or more because like I used to just put it on and
Yeah.
I mean, I watched it when it was originally on, and then I watched the reruns, and then I've watched the reruns, and then I've done the streaming services, and I own all of them now on Amazon because I'm in
Oh
love.
my
So,
God. I bet it was cooler to watch it in real time. I
no,
bet
because
that.
it was like 30, 20, 24 minutes with commercials, like 30 minutes total with commercials end to end. And then you waited a week.
Yeah. Okay, never
And if
mind. That would suck.
and if
That
it
would
was a
suck.
cliffhanger, you're like, what?
Yeah, that
And
would actually
sometimes it'd
suck.
be interrupted by like some government official coming on and being like, "Oh, I want to tell you something." And it's like, "No, this is Friends. You can't interrupt Friends for some stupid political message." I'm
No,
sure they
right?
were important, but immediately I'd be like, "What else is on?
You're like,
Jesus,
mm-mm,
is
mm-mm.
this on every freaking channel? Why is this being?" Anyway, that happens sometimes. So
Yeah.
but anyway, so well now for those of you who haven't or who have seen Friends, sorry, my favorite episode only sometimes makes the list for best episodes. It's not the one with the jellyfish. That one's great. It's not the one with the holiday armadillo. That one's also great. It's not the one with all the resolutions where Ross gets leather pants. That one's hilarious. It's not the one where Ross got high and it's like the holiday episode and Rachel makes a trifle that has beef in it. Um, it's not the one where no one's ready and Joey like wears all of Chandler's clothes. My favorite episode is season 6, episode 17, the one with Unagi.
Nagi. Such a funny word.
So, for people who don't know, Friends. See, this is what us. We're gonna have this crazy zooming. So if you're watching and not just listening along, you'll see it really likes to zoom in on my face. Um, but now Friends is a popular 1990s sitcom following 6 friends in their 20s and 30s living in Manhattan, New York as they navigate love, work, and adulthood. It's centered on the iconic coffee house of Central Park. The series explores the intertwined lives of Rachel, Monica, Phoebe, Joey, Chandler, and Ross, balancing romantic entanglements with comedy. It was a really great comedy.
Yeah, it is good. Even from what I've seen, it's pretty good.
It's yeah, and if there's a lot of little parts in like really unknown episodes that are just comedy gold. So
Yeah.
I quoted a lot, but so my episode, while it was filmed in 1999, it actually was aired in February of 2000. So sorry, we're just a little over our cost for when it aired, but
Does that even count?
doesn't
It's two
matter.
months.
We're kind of doing this. We've got a little book ending with some things that were end of 80's and beginning of 2000s that kind of really help show and highlight the 90's.
Mhm.
So in this episode, the Bee's story is that Joey needs more money for new headshots and considers going back to having medical experiments done. And Chandler was like, "Yeah, that's what happened." Joey goes to the research building and he finds that the current trial is for identical twins, which he doesn't have. It's a twin study, but it's going to pay $2,000. So he's like really excited about that money. So
Wait,
Joey
that's
goes,
so valid. Gotta do what you gotta do for money.
right? So Joey goes to an audition and he's like, "Where can I find somebody that looks like me?" And around him at the audition are a whole bunch of guys that look just like him. So later, a random guy walks into Chandler and Monica's apartment and gets a soda out of the fridge, and they ask him who he is, and he says, "I'm Joey. How are you doing?" With no emphasis on the like he had an emphasis on the wrong part in the classic line that Joey always says. And that's when Joey like bursts in and he's like, "No, no, no, it's how you doing. Damn it, Carl." And then Chandler says, "Who the heck is Carl?" And Joey explains Carl is his identical twin that he hired for the medical research project. And Joey says the only problem is Carl's acting. It's like a Minute Maid commercial that he didn't get. They were supposed to be brothers, and it was all because of Carl. And which Monica says, "That's the only problem." Carl comes back in and asks for cake, and Joey's yelling at him, "Pizza! We like pizza! Get out!" And then later at the research center, Joey and Carl are dressed alike, but they do not look alike. And Joey threatens Carl that he better not blow it like he did the Minute Maid commercial. And then the doctor calls Joey and Tony Tribbiani. And then he tells them, "You guys are not identical twins." And Joey looks at Carl and goes, "Damn it, Carl." Because it's Carl's fault.
Charles, well,
So funny. The other B story, or maybe it's the C story, is that Monica and Chandler are making each other Valentine's Day gifts. They're celebrating late because Monica had to work on Valentine's Day, and Chandler asks the group like if anyone has anything he can take credit for because he couldn't come up with anything to make for Monica. And Phoebe was saying that she just started making sock bunnies and pulls
I
out this
thought it
sock
was
bunny out of
so
her
funny.
purse. And Rachel's like, "Isn't that my sock?"
Yeah. Oh my God, I forgot about that. That is why Phoebe's my favorite character. She's so ditzy and just lovable.
So both Monica and Chandler are panicking about making each other presents, and out of desperation, Chandler finds a mixtape of romantic songs in his closet and decides to give that to Monica. He has no clue what's on it. Now, Monica hands him a box, and it's a sock bunny that Phoebe had put in her purse earlier. Monica tries to lie through it, like, "Remember when I call you Bunny?" And he's like, "No, I don't." And then eventually she breaks and she agrees, "Okay, I'm gonna make you food and give you whatever you want in the bedroom." And he says, "Well, I did put a lot of thought into that tape." And she keeps trying to make it up to him. So later, Monica's continuing the countdown of his favorite meals, and she puts on the mixtape, "The Way You Look Tonight," and that plays. Um, they dance, and then Janice's voice, Chandler's ex-girlfriend, comes on the tape and says, "I love the way you look every night, Chandler." And Monica and Chandler stop dancing, and you can hear, like, you can see the fear as the tape keeps playing on Chandler's face and the shock on Monica's face. And then Janice's voice continues, "That's why I made you this tape. Happy birthday. Love, Janice." Ruh-roh. So Chandler tries apologizing, and Monica finally forgives him. And then, just as she starts to forgive him, Janice's voice comes back on, singing, "My funny Valentine, sweet comic Valentine, you make me smile with my heart." And Chandler is now sleeping on the couch. So that's how that
Yeah.
storyline ends.
Honestly, he would have been kicked out if that were he. Yeah, he would no longer be
He
actually.
had good intention, he just couldn't figure it out. You gotta laugh through these things. So she came up with a sock bunny. I mean, to
Phoebe
be
came up with the
fair,
sock bunny.
to be fair, she borrowed Phoebe's sock bunny. Um, Now the main storyline is that Phoebe and Rachel went to a self-defense class and they feel like they can defend themselves now against anyone. And Ross says, of course they can defend themselves against an attack they know is coming. But he studied karate for a long time, which is when, for anybody who doesn't know, his first wife was a lesbian for a long time and he didn't know. And so he was like sexually frustrated and he was doing a lot of karate to get that out. So he says there's a concept called unagi where which Rachel and Phoebe then go, "Isn't that a sushi?" And then they're like, "Yeah, it is. It's freshwater eel." And he says, "No, unagi is a state of total awareness. Only by achieving true unagi can you be prepared for any danger that may befall you." Okay.
So funny. It's giving like it's giving Reiki. You know what I mean? It's giving Reiki vibes. Like it seemed
It's
like
like,
that's what he was trying
but
to do.
this is a total awareness of unagi, Hannah. Okay.
Yeah. It's not Reiki. It's not
Total
sushi.
awareness of unagi. Okay, because he does this and the so Rachel and Phoebe like don't take him seriously. So he keeps trying to startle them and they don't startle. And he's like, "Okay, you knew that was coming, but this doesn't mean that you have unagi." And then Rachel says, "Ooh, if we make reservations, we can actually have unagi in about a half hour." And then later, Ross pops out from behind a corner. "Danger!" and tries to scare and scares them, teaching them a lesson in the importance of unagi, Hannah.
It's so important.
Later, in
Needed.
Ross's apartment, Chandler stops by as Ross is folding laundry and he says, "Hey." Uh, and Ross is with his back to the door is like, "Chandler, I sensed it was you. Unagi, I am always aware." And Chandler says, "Are you aware that unagi is an eel?" And after Chandler leaves, Rachel and Phoebe pop out from behind the curtains in Ross's apartment shouting, "Danger!" And Ross screams in a high-pitched scream. He's like, "Ah!" To which Rachel says, "Ah, salmon skin roll." Later, Phoebe and Rachel get home and they spot Ross hiding in their apartment behind a chair. They pin him down and tell him to say that they are Unagi. And he says, "It's not something you are, it's something you have." And suggests that he could get out of being pinned down, but they would get very, very hurt. And then they like keep pulling on his leg, essentially. They only pin him down more. Now, Ross then goes down to the women's self-defense class and he goes up to the instructor after and he's like, "Great class, I was watching." Which is creepy. And then
Yeah.
he asks, "You know the last move where the woman tripped you and pinned you to the floor? What would you do next?" And the instructor starts to tell Ross what he would tell the woman to do with her keys. And he's like, "No, no, 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 no. What would you do next?" The instructor says, "Me, the attacker?" And Ross intensely says, "Yes, that's right. I tried attacking two women. Did not work." The instructor is like, "What?" And Ross is like, "It's okay. They're my friends. In fact, I was married to one of them." And the instructor says, "Let me get this straight. You attacked your ex-wife?" And Ross says, "Oh, no, 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 no. I tried, but I couldn't. And that's why I'm here. Maybe we could team up and we could attack them together." And the guy was like, and he's like, Ross is like, "That's a no."
Yeah, he
So
looked like a
later,
loony bin.
yeah, he was crazy. It's like asking for advice on how to attack from a
Like,
self-defense instructor.
yeah, no.
So later Ross heads to the coffee shop, and when he sees Phoebe and Rachel from the back, and he says, "Uh-huh, nowhere to run," and starts to chase them. And inside the coffee shop, Phoebe and Rachel are sitting by the window, and they see Ross duck behind this trash can and then take off after these two women. And Phoebe says, why is Ross doing that?" And we hear Ross scream, "Danger!" And like Rachel says, "Why is Ross jumping on those women?" And Phoebe says, "We should help them." And Rachel says, "I don't think they need any help." And then we see Ross like running away, spotting Phoebe and Rachel in the coffee house. And he's like, "Oh." And then he realizes his mistake as these women like are running after him. He has to take off. And then the episode ends. So,
Yeah.
Unagi. So Hannah, what'd you
Oh,
think?
hearing you talk about it made it 10 times funnier. I'm not gonna lie. I'm sitting here like cracking up because there's so
Unagi.
much. Yeah, and your little like impressions. There's so much in one episode. I didn't
There
like
is.
when you watch it, I feel like it doesn't feel as much like that. It's just like, oh, like there's a lot going on, but it doesn't seem like that plentiful. There is
Mhm.
so much. Like there's so many different plots going on at once. So I think
Right?
I need to watch Friends more because it's like right
Right,
up my
you do.
alley. Like my
You do.
ADHD need more. So
You do. You'll get my like it's a moo point. Joey says um I can't remember the setup. I would normally have this off the top, but he's like telling like Rachel it's a moo point and she's like, "A moo point?" He's like, "Yeah, it's a cow's opinion. It's moo
oh
instead
my
of the word
god.
moo."
I've
So,
heard this like meme before, this quote
yeah,
before.
it's a cow's opinion. It's moo.
Oh my
So
god.
I say that all the time. So yeah, you'll hear me quote once you start to like watch more Friends, you'll hear me quote Friends a lot. So it's
Yeah.
pretty funny.
Yeah, it is really good. What episode? I watched one birth episode.
Oh,
Like I
Phoebe
remember, I
giving
think
birth?
wait, Phoebe was pregnant with triplets, wasn't she?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay. I know I
Unless
watched
it was,
something like
yeah,
that.
there's one in the first season where Ross's ex-wife gives birth to his son Ben, and uh Ross and Susan, his ex-wife's new partner, with Phoebe get stuck in a closet. during the birth of his son. Anyway, um, and then there's like the birth. Phoebe gives birth to triplets, her brother's triplets. So she was the womb for her brother and her brother's wife to have babies, and she ended up like having triplets, like all three eggs took. And so all three embryos took, I'm sorry. And so then she ended up having triplets. And that's all a whole funny plot. It's a weird plot line, but it's a funny plot line. And then in the last one, Rachel has a baby. So those are the babies.
Okay, I've definitely seen. I know for a fact it wasn't the first one, so it was either Phoebe or Rachel. I can't remember, but I do
Yeah.
remember that. There's
Yep.
another episode I've watched too, but I can't remember. But I know for a fact I've seen like at least two, and then the other ones I probably fell asleep to. But I've like fully watched two.
Yeah. Typically, most of the episodes I could probably like quote for word. So,
Really?
like
Oh
once
my
they get
god,
started, yeah, it's a
that's
pretty bad. I've
awesome.
seen them so many times.
Oh my god.
Um, so anyway, well, let's head into our movie of the week, shall we?
Yes, we shall.
Give the people what they're here for. All right. So
Woo!
we watched Man of the House this week. It's a 1995 movie and it's available on Disney Plus. So you can head over there if you didn't watch it before. We'll give you the whole spiel, so spoiler. If you want, pause the podcast, go watch the movie, head on back.
Yes, it is a good movie,
Otherwise,
guys.
yeah,
Watch
it's a
it.
great movie. It's a great family movie. It's a fun movie. It's funny.
Yeah.
So it's very parent trappy, if you're wondering.
Yeah.
The synopsis is despite having a dangerous criminal with a vendetta after him, attorney Jack Sturgis, Chevy Chase, has a tougher adversary to worry about, his girlfriend's son, Ben, who is played by Jonathan Taylor Thomas. As Sturgis and Ben's mom, Sandy, who's played by Farrah Fawcett, become more serious, Ben increasingly ups his efforts to sabotage the relationship since he has no intention of giving up his prime spot in the household dynamic. Now, Sturgis is determined to connect with Ben, but Ben is going to make him work for it. Now, the story was written by David Peckinpah and Richard Jeffries, and the screenplay was written by James Orr and Jim Cruikshank. Now David Peckinpah mostly wrote TV movies and shows like Sliders, Silk Stockings. Richard Jeffries wrote things like Cold Creek Manor, Living Hell, and Warbirds. These are definitely not Disney movies, but Jim Cruikshank is where it really comes in, I believe. So alongside James Orr, he wrote things like Three Men and a Baby, which is a 1987 movie. That was one of my childhood favorites that I grew up on. Honestly, that's in my top 10 movies.
Heard of
They
that
wrote
one.
Sister Act 2.
Yeah, I
So,
did see that. I did a little bit of research on the writers and directors, and I did see that.
yeah. They
That's
did
pretty
Love on the Run, My Future Boyfriend, all things that were kind of like their vibe is like wholesome and hilarious.
cool.
And now James Orr was also our director. So he directed this movie as well. Now, without giving it all away, Hannah, what'd you think of this movie?
So I did really like this movie. That is a great comparison to Parent Trap. Like that is perfect. I didn't even put two and two together. It does give the same vibes.
It gives, yeah.
I it yeah, like a little pranksterness. I love that. But I loved I loved it, which I know we're going to talk about in a bit, but I loved their decorations. That was like something I was like super invested in, and I liked their way of life. Like there
Talking
was
about like
once,
their beachy, like their
yeah,
beach stuff.
they're like almost like hippie, like healthy people. Like when Ben
Yeah.
wanted granola and Greek yogurt and fruit, I was
Yeah.
like, okay, so they're healthy and beachy and like a little hippie. I loved that. So I thought it was a really good movie. I don't know why that stuck out to me so much, but as someone that like tries to live a hippie lifestyle, I resonated and I thought that was cool.
Yeah.
But
Absolutely.
I don't know. It was a very good movie. Definitely not one of my favorites that we've watched, but like I
Yeah.
would say it's like middle tier. Middle tier.
Well, if you think about it too, of like watching it as a kid,
Yeah.
like, I mean, the 90's were a lot about like step parenting. So there's a
Hmm.
lot of movies about people coming in and being step parents and
Yeah.
trying to like deal with the kids, and the kids don't want them to be there, or adopt a kid and the kid didn't want them like to be, they gave him trouble.
Yeah.
There's a lot of movies like that, where there's that kind of instigation and the kid is like the hero and the villain all in the same situation. So let's
That's so
rewind.
cool.
So we open on a harbor in Seattle, and Dad drives away from his 6-year-old son. The kid is narrating that he left, saying he needed his own space, and he took his secretary along with him because he needed someone to answer his phone calls. I thought that was funny. And then he never really saw his dad again. His mom and him still had each other, and they decided to start all over, and they moved to a small loft apartment. Now, this, Hannah, I was mad. As soon as he said small loft apartment and then showed it, this thing is not small. It was huge. It was
Yeah, no.
it was like 2 stories almost.
Yeah.
And then they had this backyard garden on the roof. It was like you said, it had great style. It was like white
Hmm.
walls and like clean wood furniture, like
Yeah.
maple furniture with very like earthy
It was so
tones and
nice.
plants and organic stuff.
I loved it. Ugh.
Beautiful loft apartment, but do not. He was like, "Well, it was small." And then when they show it, it was like it was dingy, but Mom made it a home. And when they showed it dingy, it was just painted white. There's nothing in there yet, and they called it dingy. And I was like,
Yeah,
you have not seen dingy, my friend. You are,
right?
yeah. Apparently, you are 6 and have never seen dingy before.
No, I
So,
thought it was weird too that he said that. I wonder if he was just like being over dramatic. I don't know. I like overthink
well, even as a
everything.
6-year-old, that loft was huge.
No,
So,
like
like,
that was
somebody.
big.
Like, I feel like maybe who was writing this was like, I live in a mansion. This looks like a dingy loft. It's like, okay,
Oh my
one percenter.
God.
Okay,
Could have been. Yeah,
I
no,
would
like if
kill
it were
for that loft.
dingy, literally, if it were dingy, there he would not have had his own room.
Yeah,
There would not have been
right?
stairs. Like, no.
Right?
Mm-mm.
There would have been like trash on the floor. It wasn't even dirty.
Right.
Fine. Well, his mom started dating again, and he says that they were all jerks and never lasted long, but things would always go back to the way things were, just the two of us. His mom, Sandy Archer, is played by Farrah Fawcett. Now, Farrah Fawcett is known for her roles in Extremities, The Cannonball Run, Saturn III, and Logan's Run, but I think most people may know her from her time on Charlie's Angels. So she was in the original show of Charlie's Angels. She was in that for like 28 episodes, which isn't long, but she made an impact. She had this like big, like the we call it Farrah Fawcett hair. It's like big and it flows out. Like when they did that
Oh,
70s show, they
like
gave the
certain
girls
things.
the Farrah Fawcett hair that like flared out
Oh
from her
my God.
face, blonde and layered. So I
Yeah.
think most people would know her from that. But she was also on Dr. T and the Women with Helen Hunt. So we talked about that previously in the last when we talked about Twister.
A little connection.
That little connection. So they started making a collage of stuff they found on the beach. They've been doing it for the 5 years and they'll finish it someday. So now he's 11. And the 11-year-old Ben is played by 1990s heartthrob Jonathan Taylor Thomas. Now we called him JTT, so I'm going to refer to him as JTT. So JTT really landed when he was on Home Improvement, playing the middle child, Randy Taylor, but he was also the voice of young Simba on The Lion King. The movie he did when he did this movie right around the same time, he also did a movie called Tom and Huck, so they came out around the same time. He was also the voice of Pinocchio in The Adventures of Pinocchio. He was also in Wild America, which is a movie that's coming up, and we will be watching that. And so I will be like dreamily staring at this childhood heartthrob. He also did tons of voiceover work, and he was in a few episodes of Tim Allen's last show, not his current one, but his last show, Last Man Standing. And then during the 90s, he was like all over magazine covers, like Teen Beat. He was like on
Really?
it. He was splashed. He was always on the. And like I was cutting out pictures and putting them up on my wall. Um, my sister didn't, I think she had said like she didn't think JTT was cute, but like he was also a little bit younger than she was, so like she liked some
Mhm.
of the older heartthrobs, but yeah, we would like I would pour over her Teen Beat magazine as I'm like, she's gonna marry him.
Oh my God. That's funny.
Um, I don't think that he knows that. I think he also is married, so it's fine. And he doesn't really act anymore outside of the stuff that he did with Tim Allen. So,
Yeah, I
um,
searched that up and it said that he like directs stuff now and writes stuff.
yep.
So. more behind the
which is
scenes.
fine. Honestly, he could probably live off of Lion King and like Home Improvement for a very long time, but
Yeah.
I don't know how much he got from those movies, but I'm sure there's residuals.
Yeah.
So then he finds out that his mom wants to get married, and he says he'll never understand women. And next we see the court where Francis James Renda is found guilty of moving narcotics, and Mr. Sturgis asked the guy if he was threatening him in his end statement. He said he wasn't, and the guy gets 50 years in prison sentence, and his goons, including his son, aren't seeming very happy. The goons threaten Sturgis. Think you're pretty tough, don't you? Well, let me tell you something, counselor. You may be on top of the situation now, but keep in mind, things have a way of coming back around. Know what I mean? And Jack Sturgis says, Joey, if you're one of the things that comes back around, I'll step on you like a bug. Know what I mean? Now, Jack Sturgis is played by a lot of people who are going to be millennials, probably, and then Gen X and boomers. You're going to know Chevy Chase. He's a comedy legend. Chevy Chase is known for his roles in Nothing But Trouble, Caddyshack, National Lampoon's Vacation, Memoirs of an Invisible Man, Fletch, Follow That Bird, which honestly is the only Sesame Street movie that exists in the entire world that gives me nightmares to this day. Follow That Bird is the scariest Sesame Street movie. He was in that movie as like a TV anchorman. That I don't recommend watching it. It's so freaking creepy. Um,
Oh, oh my God.
it's
Why?
Big Bird runs away and
Mm.
gets like kidnapped
Oh.
or
Oh,
something. And like the people chasing him when he runs away again. The people chasing him are like the kidnappers in there. It's just terrifying. Anyway,
oh
you
my
shouldn't.
God.
It was a terrible plot line. It was a terrible movie.
Okay.
Don't. So of the Chevy Chase movies, let's just take that one out. So Three Amigos, he was in. National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation is Clark Griswold. So most people watch that every Christmas. I see it every Christmas. So Clark Griswold, Chevy Chase. He was in Last Action Hero, Snow Day, which is a great 90's movie. Orange County, love that one as well. Community in the 2010s. I was going to say that was recent, and then I like looked at the dates and I was like, that's not that recent anymore.
Oh
So,
my God.
like,
Oh, I can't believe it's 2026.
and yeah, okay. Call me when when it's turning the year of ages you are like older than.
Oh my gosh.
And can't believe it's turning 26. It's fine. And then my favorite movie that Chevy Chase did of all time is, I mean, all of them are really good, but my favorite was Funny Farm. So, watch that movie, check out The Mail Person.
Funny
I'm
farm.
gonna quietly say I secretly sometimes think that my mail person is the same mail person from Funny Farm who delivers the mail. Just
What?
because like he just speeds like a speed demon
Oh
and
my
like
God.
yeah and I'm like when I first moved in I was like holy cow this lady's going like 45 down this like tiny little road that I live on and I was just like or 50 and I was just like oh my God how's she gonna throw the mail out um
God.
it just reminds me of Funny Farm and also like it's a Funny Farm is like such a great movie of like everything's going wrong um good movie though. So Jack and Sandy are in the art gallery after the court hearing and they're talking about step parenting. And Jack says he has a book on it. It's easy, no
Yeah.
problems. Like he's not worried.
I
And
thought that
she's
was
like,
so sweet that he like actively did go out of his way. Like I will say, I think he was a good guy.
yeah,
I
oh,
think he was a good guy.
absolutely. So later on the beach, Ben and Sandy are walking along, and Ben asks her, this is about sex, isn't it? And he goes on to tell her that he knows that women reach their sexual peak in their 30s, and she's appalled that her son knows this at 11. And he's picked this up, you know, she's like scared and she's like, he watches too much television. Now,
That's
Sandy
so
tells him
funny.
he'll be a good role model. And Ben asks, what if he turns out to be a serial killer and boils our heads in acid? And Sandy is like, it's just a trial period. If it doesn't work out, it'll go back to the way it was before. And Ben
What
keeps
was it with
like,
him and acid? Why did he bring up acid like 3 times?
it's all the different serial killer things. It's something that he saw. I
That's
mean,
so funny.
yeah, these are concerns that we had in the 90s. Sandy said it's just a trial period. If it doesn't work out, it'll go back before, like I said. Ben keeps complaining about him, including that he irons his jeans, which he says indicates a deeper psychosis.
I thought that was
Now,
so funny. Oh my god.
now Sandy says she loves Jack, but he's the most important man. Ben is the most important man of her in her life. And then Ben says, I still think he might try to boil our heads in acid.
I'm an acid.
So then we see Jack moving in some of his things, including a book on criminal psychology, a profile of serial killers, and Ben's like, I knew it. And then he
Oh
looks
my
for Jack's
god.
name in the book, but it's not there. They move Jack's stuff into the new place, and they like are gonna put it where they keep the stuff they collect on the beach, and Ben takes issue with that. Things are already changing for him, and he's not happy. And
Mhm.
Jack says, thanks, Benny, and Ben hates that
Yeah,
calls him Benny.
no.
Later that evening, Jack is in the shower taking up the bathroom. So Ben turns on the hot water in the kitchen, which causes his shower to run cold. And he steps out to ask about it, and Ben like books it in while he's asking about it. Ben opens the medicine cabinet to find all of Jack's stuff is in there. Sees like his aftershave, his deodorant, like his lotions. He's like, "Ooh, is he decomposing or something? Like, why does he need all this smelly stuff?" And Ben asks where his stuff is because it's not in the medicine cabinet anymore. And his mom says she put it in the cabinet on the floor because Jack is taller and it makes sense for his stuff to be up in the medicine cabinet. Now, Sandy says we'll all have to make adjustments around here. And Ben sits down and mutters that he's the only one making all the adjustments.
I did feel bad for him at first because his mom, like, love her, but she wasn't. I feel like she wasn't as accommodating as she should have been to him, given what had happened with his dad, given his dad just leaving.
I mean, but it had happened 5 years before. That is,
But
it
like,
didn't
that's so
just leave.
traumatizing.
And yeah, he's like notorious for chasing away guys. So who knows? But just then, Jack comes out of the bathroom and heads into Sandy's bedroom to go to bed, which gave Ben the idea. And then next, we see Sandy setting Jack up on a cot in the living room because Ben said it would be psychologically damaging for them to be in the same room, which I think is very clever. Manipulation for the win. Jack goes to bed,
Right?
and the cot collapses under his feet, and then the cot collapses under his head, and so he's on this like mound, and he has a restless sleep as he's trying to sleep on this rounded cot. And he tries to sneak into Sandy's room, like he gives up with the cot, and he tries to sneak in there, and he steps and trips on a skateboard, waking everyone up. And Jack says he was just trying to get to the bathroom when he tripped on the skateboard. And Ben reminds him, that's on the other side of the apartment, Jack. Did you already forget?
And
Now,
then he
Jack,
like watched him. He just
yeah,
watched him go to the bathroom and stayed out there.
right? And then Jack tries to sneak back when Ben goes to bed, but no luck. Ben like opens the door. The next morning, Jack has made a huge mess making breakfast for everyone. Eggs Benedict a la Sturgis. Ben is upset about the cholesterol level of his meal, and Jack doesn't follow their recycling plan. Apparently, Sandy and Ben normally have just yogurt, granola, and fruit in the morning. And I do want to point out that he was wearing flannel. He like took his flannel to school. So this back to our flannel conversation. 90's, t-shirts, flannel, jeans. It's what you
Period.
wore.
And I liked his necklace too.
Yeah,
I liked his necklace too. I have that written
that
down.
was pretty common. Like we had these like yeah, rope. It was kind of like a black rope necklace and then some kind of a charm.
Oh, that's
That was
cute.
like all the 90's. I swear I probably had like 20 of those necklaces with different charms on them.
Oh, that's cute. No, I liked that. I did like his style. I thought he was just like, I don't know. I didn't think he was really well, he was a brat, but I feel like comparatively to other movies where I've been like, this child's a brat. This one, I don't know. I feel like I kind of felt for him in a way. Not that my dad left, but like I kind
Yeah.
of I don't know. I was like, that's really sad. And if my mom got into a relationship after that, I probably would not have been okay with that at 11.
I
uh-uh.
mean, I had step parents, like
Yeah.
a few, and I will not. This is not including my stepmom. My stepmom's amazing, so I did not ever have to do this to her. But I will not admit that I allegedly may have tried some manipulation tactics and pranks of my own to get rid of some of them.
Oh my
So
god.
they know. They know.
That's hilarious.
They know who they are. They're not around anymore, so it worked.
Oh my God. Okay, period, girl. I see you.
Yeah, because they were terrible and not all of them. So like a couple were okay. They were okay, but most of them were like, no, this guy sucks.
Yeah.
Um, let's get rid of him. He's got to go. It's psychologically damaging for me.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay, I think I'm gonna start using that actually. Anytime one of my parents says something crazy, I'm gonna be like,
it's
psychologically
psychologically damaging. Okay, sorry, mom and dad. They listen. You're just outing yourself right now. Your parents are so, so sorry.
They're
She's not gonna do that. Just like I told everyone, she is not allowed to prank people with fish. So this podcast is making bad Hannah come out, and I'm trying to put her back in that box. So
Remember
just
when I said I hate men? She does
yeah,
not hate men.
yeah, I'm working on it. I'm working on it. 90's might be ruining Hannah. So sorry. So after this interaction with Ben in the morning where Ben's all upset and doesn't think that he's like nothing's working out, he throws out his step parenting made easy book. Like I thought that was a really dumb book to have because it was not easy. At school, at lunch, Ben meets up with his best friend, Monroe, and is telling him about his mom's new boyfriend that took over the kitchen. So he walked out in protest. Monroe suggests he's going to want to get rid of him immediately. The longer he lives there, the harder it is to get rid of him.
Yeah, that's fair too.
Monroe Hill is played by Nicholas Garrett, who only did two other movies, TV movies after this, and nothing else. So nothing really of note. They're walking back from lunch and they hear someone calling from inside the locker. They unlock the locker to meet Norman Bronsky. They ask him what he was doing in his locker, and they say, I like that Monroe says this. Don't you know you're supposed to be outside when you lock it up?
I kind of
And
like
Norman
Monroe
says
at the
big
beginning. He was
kids do
funny.
that to him every day, and Ben comments it's probably because of this dorky looking get up. Now, Norman says he's an Indian guide, and Ben asks what that is. And Norman repeats the YMCA Indian Guides is a program designed to foster understanding and companionship between father and son. Now, Ben asks if fathers have to dress that way too, and Norman says, oh, sure. And Ben asks, how do we join? So Norman asks if they happen to be by this way tomorrow, can they check to make sure that he's not still stuck in a locker? Norman is played by Zachary Brown, who starred in Shiloh 2. He was the main character of Shiloh 2, so if you see that, but he was also in a few episodes of The Pretender and ER, because apparently if you live in New York, everyone has been in ER or Law and Order. Ben thinks Indian Guides is the solution to his problem. Later, Jack is asking Sandy about if Ben really wants to do this Indian guide thing, and she told him Ben thinks it'll be good for them to get to know each other. But Sandy, they sit around all day and make things like furry refrigerator magnets. What tribe in all of history makes furry refrigerator magnets? Now, I do want to point out that we will say Indian guides, but what we really mean is Native American or indigenous guides. But this was what it was called in the 90's. They do point out a few like funny things about that this isn't really like indigenous tribal stuff
Yeah.
and that like all and some of the disparities in Hollywood. So I'll kind of mention that as well. But for you're gonna hear the word Indian for Indian guides, but they're meaning like American indigenous populations. Okay. Just want to make sure I mention that. So at the Indian Guides meeting, they all sing Pals Forever, Pals Forever. That's our slogan, that's our song. Boys are stronger, dads feel younger when they take the boys along. And they like are about to clap. And the guys, everybody continues. Moms are for it, dads adore it, and the boys all think it's fine. Pals forever, as Indian guides, we'll have good times. So that's a real
Great
great
song.
song.
Oh, I love it. I'm gonna make it my ringtone.
You want to just take the little clip of me singing it and make it your
Yeah.
ringtone? Yeah,
Yeah.
great. Please don't do that. If you're listening out there, please don't. It's so embarrassing. I'm like in an elevator one day and I'm like somebody's phone starts ringing, pals forever.
You
I'm
hear
like,
yourself.
give me, I'll hit the stop button. Let
You're
me
like,
out.
uh-oh.
I'll
Yeah.
get out mid level. I don't even,
You
I'll
climb.
crawl up there. Give me a Mission Impossible style. I'll go at the top. That's fine. Just kidding.
Oh my God.
So the Indian Guides group, before we continue any further, let's introduce who we've got. So Chief Running Horse is Chet Bronsky. He's played by George Wendt. If you are a millennial or elder millennial, I should say, like me or a Gen X or a boomer, you will know him as Norm in Cheers. He plays Norm Peterson in Cheers. Did that for a long time. He was amazing. It was great. But he was also known for his role in other movies, like House, Fletch, Forever Young, and a million other things. So, like, if you go to his IMDb, there's so many things on there. And honestly, I don't think you've made it as a TV show in the 90's and 2000s unless you had George Wendt on it once. Like he has so many episodes of people's shows. It's amazing. Unfortunately, he did pass away last year, so he's no longer acting. And then Indian Guide, in the movie, his son is Dark. His Indian name is Dark Eagle, and that's Norman, who we already talked about. Now, Silent Thunder, or Lloyd Small, is no joke an award-winning clown. He does not talk through this entire movie, but it's because he is legitimately a clown, in real life, IRL. He was also in the movie Lorenzo's Oil, which is a very, very impactful movie. So if you get a chance to watch Lorenzo's Oil, we watched it in science class, in high school, which I thought was interesting, but it's a very good movie, and he is in that. He's not really a big actor in a lot of other things, so if you want to catch him, that's the best one. Now, his son in this movie goes by Talking Rock or Daryl, and he's played by Spencer Vrooman, who was in the movie Pet Shop. He was in Casper, and he was in Fearless, and he stopped acting in 2003. The next adult is Silver Fox or Red Sweeney. He is played by Art LaFleur, who many millennials will know from his role in The Sandlot because he was the Great Bambino, the Sultan of Squash.
Oh my gosh, I need to like rewatch this. I've definitely seen it, or I have seen it, but I need to
Well,
rewatch it to
it's
look out.
coming up this summer, so it's on our list. He was also in The Blob, one of my faves, Cobra, and Field of Dreams. He was in The Rescue from Gilligan's Island, War Games, The Man with One Red Shoe, Mr. Baseball, and he was in an episode of Boy Meets World as well. I always point out when people were in
Yeah.
Boy Meets World. He was in the Santa Claus 2 and 3. He played the Tooth Fairy, so that would be really funny to see him as the Tooth Fairy. He was in
What?
the Cinderella Story and Speed Racer.
God, he's in a lot. He was a
Yes.
tooth fairy though?
He was the Tooth Fairy in Santa Claus number 2 and the third one.
I love that.
So in this movie, his son is Hank Sweeney, and he's played by Chris Miranda, who was in a few movies like My Life, and then a few TV show episodes during that time, but including 2 episodes of Friends. So he played Robbie, and I don't remember. I was like, I'm gonna have to figure out who the heck Robbie was, um,
Hmm.
because I can't think of a kid named Robbie. So anybody who's a Friends fanatic, maybe you can help us figure that out. So the Indian guides say welcome to the new 2 members, and their welcome is, "Hey, how are ya?" Which is the official greeting of the Minnetalk, which is their Indian guides group. Now Silver Fox chimes in with a point of order. It's customary for the new members to pick names for each other. Now Jack goes first with Ben, and he calls him Little Wing. Ben goes next and is supposed to name him something that tells him how much he feels about him. So he names him Squatting Dog.
Oh,
He said
funny.
he once had a dog that had a terrible case of the squirts, but it was his best friend in the whole world. Another manipulation. And Jack said, "Did you have any other pets?" And Ben said, "I had a squirrel named Numbnuts." And then so Jack agrees to be Squatting Dog because he doesn't want to be Numbnuts. Silent Thunder then performs an act in the movie too. He's a circus performer and likes to express himself without words. He does an entertaining act. It was actually really good. Next, they're going to play Scrambled Moccasins, but Silver Fox says, "Point of order." We played that last week. And so this week they end up playing Potato Bowling. Later at the arcade, Ben is bragging to Monroe that he is tricking Jack into participating and that they have a backyard camping trip coming up. And he told Jack that all the dads are dressing up like authentic Indians. So Jack went out and rented an authentic costume. At the camp out, no one is dressed up. Chet tells Jack he looks great, but they don't dress up except for special occasions. Ben tells Jack, "Oh, I'm sorry, I must have misunderstood." And then he says, "Jack, you need to get your face painted like everybody else." And Jack worries about the type of paint because he breaks out. And Ben assures him, "It's just watercolor, I checked." And then he paints on stripes on his cheeks and a big happy face on his forehead. Now the goons are watching Jack across the street, and Joey says it needs to look like an accident so it doesn't come back on his old man when they take care of Jack. Um, the Indian guides start the grapefruit relay, and they're racing, and Jack and Chet are talking about being stepfathers. Chet lets him know, like, I'm a stepdad too. I'm not his father. Like, if you need to talk about it, come to me.
He was so
The next,
sweet. He
yeah,
was
it
so
was
sweet
very sweet.
overall.
The next day at the courthouse, Leonard Red Crow moves for an immediate dismissal because of Jack's disrespect. And we see that Jack has marks on his face from the day before, though with the paint. Jack assures him it's a rash. It's like a rash on his face and on his cheeks. And Red Crow says it looks like a lot like war paint, Jack. Although he
Mhm.
laughs, although the happy face is not technically a native symbol. Back in his boss's office, Jack is getting chewed out because he was in court to argue over indigenous land rights and he shows up in war paint. He threatens to take him off the case, and his boss says that Jack has been canceling meetings and he's coming not prepared. Jack says the Indian guides has been taking up more time than he thought, and his boss tells him to get his priorities in order. Now, Jack's boss is played by Bob Younger. Or sorry, Jack's boss, Bob Younger, is played by Ron Canada. There we go. Who is known for his role. He's in a lot of stuff. So this is why I wanted to mention him. He's a minor character in this movie, but he's been in Honey, I Blew Up the Kid, Lone Star, Wedding Crashers, National Treasure. He was also in Adventures in Babysitting, which we brought up the other day. He
Yep.
was in Home Alone 2, The American President, Cinderella Man, Just Like Heaven, Ted 2. Like he's got a great list of things that he's been in. So it was really cool that he could make an appearance in this movie. Now, Jack is telling Sandy later that the Indian Guides isn't working because it's interfering with his work. He spent 15 years building his career, so he can either be a U.S. attorney or an Indian Guide's father, but he can't be both. Ben overhears him and makes a big stink about Jack quitting and being a quitter, just like his dad. Now,
Yeah.
Jack and Sandy get into a fight. Now, Hannah, he doesn't actually believe this. This is a manipulation.
But like that's a crazy thing to say though. Like that would if I were a step parent, that would make me feel so crappy about myself.
That's what he's trying to do.
It's yeah.
He wants him to leave. So Jack and Sandy end up getting into a fight because of this. And Sandy
Yeah.
wonders if she made a mistake and should just wait till Ben is older to handle it better. I remember parents having those conversations when I was a little bit obnoxious. Sandy says she just wanted everything to work out for the three of them and become a family. And Jack apologizes and says he'll make it work. Jack goes upstairs to apologize, but he overhears Ben conspiring and bragging to Monroe that he was just trying to chase Jack away. This whole thing was a manipulation. So
I
he's
love
like, oh, I'll talk to him later. He was on the phone. Jack goes to school to talk to Chet. Chet's a woodshop teacher, and he needs advice on dealing with Ben. And Chet says, well, we're all part of the same tribe. And Jack's like, yeah, the Minnetonk. And Chet's like, no, I'm referring to the emotionally constipated American male over 40.
it.
Now
Let's
Jack asks Jack asked for help dealing with Ben, and Chet said Ben's just scared. He's scared you're going to take away the most important thing in his life, his mother. Now, Chet said Norman tried to drive him away for months, but he kept at it and at it and at it. And then he advises Jack to not be afraid to be a kid now and again. Chet says raising kids is one of the most difficult things in the world, and Jack just needs to stand. Jack says he stands up to the toughest hoods in the country, but an 11-year-old kid he's scared of. So
Yeah.
later, Ben is rollerblading to hit the road, Jack, perfect song, but comes home to find his parents together, or these two people. I guess it's not his parent yet.
Yeah.
Ben says, "What are you doing here? I thought you were leaving." And Jack's like, "Why? Why would I leave? I live here." And then Jack introduces them to Leonard Red Crow. He's the chief of the Salish Indian tribe. And he said, Leonard's here to teach us how to do a real rain dance. And Ben says, this is Seattle. What's the point of that? And Leonard says, who do you think is responsible for all the rain? Which I love. Took credit for it. Now Leonard teaches
Funny.
them to rain dance, how to shoot a bow and arrow. The first day Ben shoots the arrow and hits Jack's truck tire. Everyone
It was
busts a
so
move.
funny.
during the rain dance practice. They learn how to throw hatchets and shoot the bow and arrows, and Ben finally hits a bullseye. Monroe sees Ben rain dancing, and he doesn't care. He keeps going. Leonard teaches him about identifying plants. Sandy made them all matching sweatshirts, so they're all really cute. They're finally like learning how to get a rain dance together, and then it rains. So he's
I
like
thought
been,
that was so
yeah,
cute.
training them over the amount of time, and they all they become one of the best Indian guide groups in the
Mhm.
country. So Jack goes to check on Ben, who's asleep later, and covers him up with a blanket. So sweet. The next day, Jack tells Ben that Norm is going to sleep over. He doesn't have a lot of friends and needs more. They set up the tent on the roof and have a camp out with marshmallows. Norm brought Ben a vest. He made it himself. And Ben says he doesn't understand why he would do something like that. Um, but he likes the vest and he
It was
thanks
so
them.
cute. That whole interaction, you could tell that Ben wasn't used to people doing nice things for him and wasn't like didn't know how to show gratitude at first, and that was really sweet. I thought that was like an accurate representation of an
Yeah.
11-year-old boy, a traumatized 11-year-old boy.
You're giving his drama too much credit, I think, just a little bit. I think he's just like he didn't think that they could be friends because they were so different. And he like finally realizes, oh, this is a kid like me and he actually cares about something. So then Ben invites him to play video games and they
They
both
do.
like the same video game. So cool.
Oh.
The next day, Ben wears his Indian vest to school, and Monroe calls him out. Monroe asks him if he's getting a little too into the Indian thing, and Ben says it's not as bad as he thought. He learned a lot of cool stuff. For example, do you know how to shoot a bow and arrow or throw a tomahawk? And Monroe says no. And Ben says, well, I do. And Monroe says, well, that should come in real handy the next time you're gonna go buffalo hunting. Ben tells him the next thing they're going to do is a canoe trip over the Whitewater Rapids and everything. Ben sees Norm getting picked on and he stands up to the bullies. He says, let him go or face the consequences, and then pretends to do martial arts. He's like, "Wah." And
So
then he ends
funny.
up in the adjacent locker next to Norm because
I
the
thought that
bullies
was
were
cute.
like, no.
Yeah.
Getting
Mm-mm.
ready for the canoe trip, Jack is running late. He tries to get there in time, but finds that his brakes are out, and the goons push the back of his truck so that Jack has to swerve to avoid traffic, pedestrians, buses, other trucks. He ends up going out on the docks and then drives into the water. The goons see his truck go down, but Jack gets out and swims to shore. Back
Mm.
at the canoe trip, they leave without Jack, and Ben goes home instead because Jack didn't show up and he's disappointed. At home, Ben tells Sandy that Jack didn't show up. He promised he'd be there and he didn't show up. Now, Jack shows up at home soaked and he tells him he just had car trouble and there was a downpour and he couldn't make it. Ben says, don't worry about it, and goes to his room. Sandy says, without meaning to, Jack broke a promise to him. Jack says he has to make up for all the things his father did, right? And Sandy's like, yeah, it goes with the territory. I like that it's about accepting that people have trauma from others, and sometimes it's going to be helpful for people to like help them be good and like help heal that.
Yeah.
Um,
Break or fixing a heart that wasn't broken by you.
yeah. So Jack apologizes to Ben again and says that they're gonna have a good time at the upcoming 4th of July camping trip. His boss said it looks like it was no accident. The brake lines were cut and he wants to transfer him to the Portland office. And Jack's like, you can fire me or I'll quit, but either way, I'm not going to Portland. I have a camping trip with Ben, and that's more important.
Yeah.
On the camping trip, the guys hike in with their gear and they sing Lue Lue. Oh no, we gotta go. And at camp, Jack needs help setting up the tent, and he asks Ben, but Ben does not want to help, so he asks Lloyd. And the slapstick shenanigans with the clown ensue, trying to make Ben laugh, and they do. Make him laugh. The
That's
tent
so
is barely up, but it does not look good. So I don't know who set up the tents before, but it was apparently not Jack. Now the goons are stalking the group. The mobster's son, Joey Renda, is played by Richard Portnow, who's known for his role in Trumbo, Hitchcock, The Sopranos, and he was also Ray on an episode of Seinfeld. It's a well-known episode. But he was also in Good Morning Vietnam, Twins, Say Anything, and we will see him in Kindergarten Cop coming up. He was also in Sister Act as Willie, father of the bride. Uh, Beethoven, Seven, Bogus, My Giant, Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, and an episode of Boy Meets World. So he was also on Boy Meets
Oh
World.
my god. A lot of people that we watch are.
Yeah,
That's
I
cool.
don't plan that as much as I love. Boy Meets World, I don't play that. Murray is played by Richard Forgini, who is known for Ghostbusters 2, Serpico, Midnight Run, and Repo Man. And Tony is played by Peter Appel, who is known for his role in Leon the Professional, Luck, and Bad Education. But he can also be spotted in Basic Instinct, Coyote Ugly, and Spider-Man, which was out before Hannah was born. That's the one that always gets me. Around the fire, Jack tells a story, an old Indian legend. He calls out Hollywood for using, this is what I was saying, he calls out Hollywood for using Italian actors to play Native Americans traditionally in Hollywood. And then he proceeds to tell a very thinly veiled story about his situation with Ben, who he calls in the story Young Crab, and his mom, who he calls Lots of Hair, and he calls himself Looks So Darn Good. Jack says that young Crab doesn't need discipline. He's just scared and looks so darn good will run away just like his father. That's what he's afraid of. And Chet says looks so darn good must prove himself trustworthy. But Jack says trust is a funny thing. Sooner or later you screw it up. It's true. We're not all
Yeah,
perfect.
that is true. Yeah.
Talking Rock chimes in and says he thinks the lesson is the importance of communication. And Norm says sometimes it also means you have to have faith in people, even when they disappoint you. And Ben walks off and goes to bed because it's a very thinly veiled story.
Yeah.
The next morning, Ben goes to fill his canteen and sees goons in the water catching fish. He overhears the goons talking about killing Jack and heads back to camp to tell Jack. They go look, and his goons let it slip. They caused the accident. Ben says, "What accident? I thought you just had car trouble." And Jack tells him they did something to his brakes. He ended up in the bay. No big deal. Ben said he had no idea. If he had known, he wouldn't have been so upset. And Jack said he didn't want them to worry or worry his mom. Jack said he tried doing the right thing. So Jack tells everyone they need to go on and get help. He has to stay behind. He tells Ben to go with the others and tells that he appreciates that they were trying to help, including Ben. He races down the hill, loses his balance, and lands into a log with another log rolling after him, rolling up onto his leg, and he can't move. He's pinned. He hears a noise in the woods, and he tries to hide behind the log, but he sneezes. And the person who finds him, it's Ben, saying Gesundheit. Jack says, "Ben, what are you doing here?" And Ben says, "I came here to help you. What did you think?" And Jack says, "I don't need any help." And Ben's like, "Oh, really? Then what were you planning to do when those guys found you? Lie there and pretend to be a slug?" And Jack says, "Exactly. Now get out of here. You're blowing my cover." Ben says, as he's trying to get the tree trunk off Jack's leg, "You can't tell me what to do. You're not my father." And Jack's like, "I knew you were going to say that eventually." They get Jack up, but outrunning the goons is no longer an option, so they've got to slow them up while the others come back with help. Ben says that Red Crow told them if they listen, nature will provide an answer. They hear a wasp nest, and Ben saws the branch off and carries the wasp nest with it. They sharpen tomahawk, arrows, they prepare.
Yeah.
Now the
That
goons,
was so cool. It gave like Survivor. I'm
yeah,
assuming Survivor. I was like, wow, they're using nature to their benefit in like a cool way.
yeah, exactly. Now the goons split up. Ben and Jack plant pieces of their vests around to attract the goons, and the goons walk into their trap. Ben shoots the wasp nest above their head, and then Jack knocks it down with the tomahawk right on top of them. He says, "Good job, little wing." And Ben says, "You too, squatting dog." And then Jack says, "You know what? We really ought to think about changing my name." And just then Joey appears behind them and suggests, "Good idea. How about dead meat?" And then he holds them at gunpoint, forcing them to stand in an abandoned mine and rigs up dynamite all around the outside. Now Jack says he expected something different from him, and Joey challenges, "I suppose you could think of something better." And Jack's like, "You could hurl us off a cliff on some jagged rocks, for example." And Joey retorted, "That's not any better." And Ben adds, "But first you could drill holes in the back of our heads to make it look like an industrial accident." Then he adds, "And if you were really clever, you'd wrap us up in wet rawhide, and when it dried, it would shrink and squeeze out all our organs through our orifices like a tube of toothpaste." And Jack kind of looks at
So
him,
scary.
confused and disgusted, and Ben says, "I saw it on America's Most Wanted." Joey chimes in, "Let me tell you something, Sturgis, this kid is sick. If I wasn't going to kill the two of yous, I suggest you get some psychiatric help immediately." And then they light the fuse for the dynamite, and Joey's like, "Bye bye, Sturgis. Bye bye, kid." And just before the fuse gets to the dynamite, the arrow whizzes by, hitting the fuse where it was lit, breaking it off, saving Jack and Ben. It was Lloyd to the rescue, the clown.
Woo!
Joey says he's really going to surrender to one screwball with a bow and arrow and tells Murray to put a bullet in him. And then behind him chimes in, "Excuse me there, point of order," Red says. "I believe it's illegal to possess firearms in a state park. As a duly authorized representative of the Department of Motor Vehicles, a state agency, I'm going to have to confiscate those weapons." Joey says, "Oh, now there's two of them. Like, I'm really scared." And then we then see Chet, "Make that three." And the kids are like, "Make that four, make that five, make that six."
It was
Now
so
Joey says,
cute.
"They all have bows and arrows, but you've got guns. Shoot them." But the group fires their arrows first, and Jack surprises them and takes the guns. Chet says they're Indian guides and they stick together. Plus, if they had tried to get to the ranger station, they probably would have gotten lost in about 8 seconds. They don't have tracking skills.
Yeah.
So Jack says the guys are weird, but he likes them, and Ben adds, "Who wants normal anyway?" Now, Ben says to Jack that he and his mom would like to keep Jack around for a while. Later,
So
we see
cute.
Jack and Ben coming back from the beach with things for the sculpture. Ben asks Jack about his bad habits that we should know about. He says, like drinking milk from the carton. Sometimes he uses a spoon and puts it back in the drawer, which this is a deal breaker for me. You do not lick a spoon and put it back in the drawer. Deal
Oh,
breaker, you're
period.
out.
She's clean. She's a cleanly girl.
Don't like it. Don't like it. Ben asks if there's any chance he might turn into a serial killer and start boiling their heads in acid. And Jack says, "Don't be silly. I haven't done that in years." So did I pass the test? And Ben said, "I guess he'll do." And then what they see is that Jack, hanging a piece of the driftwood, completed the wall of beach decor. It's a circle. So
That
they
was
call
like my
Sandy out,
favorite part.
and she's like, "What do you know? It's done." And then the next we see Jack and Sandy's wedding on the rooftop garden, and here everyone is living their best lives. They're still Indian guides. Red is memorizing the new rule book. Lloyd still doesn't talk, but who needs him to? Chet is still a big kid. Monroe is thinking about joining the Indian guides. Ben loves it, and he never saw his mom so happy. Ben says the lesson is that you have to trust people and hope that it all works out. And after all, nothing's perfect, is it? Now that's the end. So, Hannah, what I miss?
Oh, it's
And
so
what's your
good.
rating?
My rating? What did I write down? I give it an 8. So in the moment, I
Eight.
give it an 8.
8 out of 10. I'll take it. I'll take
Yeah.
it.
No, this was a really good movie. Um, First off, just want to ask, why are crazy car scenes a thing in like all of these 90s movies? Like what is with these people like driving into traffic? It's so funny. Oh my god.
Um, yeah. It's I don't know because you can have like other you can have digital issues because we didn't really have a lot of like digital hacking or something like that. So,
It's so
yeah,
funny. Like it
gotta have
happens in so many of them, and it always entertains me. It scares me, as I've said in like past pods. It scares me because I'm not a good driver, so like I could not be surviving any of this. But I think it's a little funny. Also, loved Jack's name. Squatting dog is perfect. It's great. It's great. I loved that. As I said, I loved how the house was decorated. I thought that was super cool. I literally have it written down. What is it with all these crazy driving scenes? Like, that's a great question. I should do like a whole essay on this, like a
90s driving scenes. Okay.
thesis on 90s driving scenes.
You should
I
watch
also,
Speed.
huh?
There's a never mind. Well, I'll let you go. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, you're fine. Oh my God. I also, so when Ben was like moving the beehive, I was really concerned. Like, how wasn't he getting stung by the bees? And like, how did he have the balls to do that?
Well, first of all, point of order. Um, which I'll get into my next question for you. But they should have been wasps because it's a wasp nest. So, like, if it was wasps, he would probably have been stung.
Okay, I didn't even like.
If it's bees, they're a lot more docile than wasps. And because if they sting you, they can die. It's a whole thing. And like,
Yeah.
but also he's not doing anything to the hive. He's moving the hive very carefully as to not jostle them. But the shape of it was definitely a wasp nest. Now, honeybees, like, unless you have like a real real grumpy set of bees. Like normally they're pretty docile and you could like do lots of things and not have them attack you. Um but yeah, in this, especially if you're not, you also have to like, it depends on what you're wearing. If you're not like wearing a smell, things like that, like it should be fine. But this was a wasp nest, so I'm not honestly sure.
Okay. I'm glad we're on the same page with that.
Real.
No.
I don't know how they did it in movies pre-CGI, but I mean, this is around the time of CGI, so I have really no
Mhm.
idea how they did this one. I did not look that up.
No, that was just something I found interesting. But yeah, overall, very good movie. Um,
So, if you were one of the characters in this movie, who would you be? Who do you think you would associate most with?
Ben,
Okay.
probably. That's honestly like as you also said, like I've been there. Like I've tried to push like my parents' significant others away and be a little manipulative prankster. And like me at 11 would definitely been doing that. I don't know if I would have like joined a club. I feel like
Oh
I
yeah, I probably wouldn't have signed us up for a club, but I probably would have been like a little bit more obnoxious. Yeah. I think as a kid, I was definitely a Ben for sure. For
yeah.
sure. I think as an adult, like watching this back as a 40-year-old, which is what all of these old people are in this movie, which totally freaks me out right now. Because I was like, he talks about how like 15 years in his career or something, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like he's probably my age. But yeah, I think that I would have been like the guy being like, point of order. Like, actually, because I literally was just on a call earlier today where I was like, well, actually, our notes say, like, and I was like, I am that guy. That's me. I'm like, point of order. Uh,
Wait, I could
you're in a
totally see
national
that.
park and you shouldn't have guns.
I could so see that, but in a very complimentary way. Like you would be standing on business. Like
Yeah. I'd be like, actually, with my elephant memory, let me recall what we just talked about in the last meeting. And then I'd pull up my notes and I'd be like, yep, we did already do
you're like,
potato bowling.
mhm.
So, or we did already do the moccasin, whatever he says. So, yeah, that would be me for sure.
Okay, I
Plus, if
like
I
that.
worked at the DMV, I could fix my license plate. It's full circle. Just thought of that.
Oh, I'm gonna cry. That caught me so off guard. That was great.
I
Thank
might
you.
have been able to catch it when it came across the computer, and I would have been like, nope, reassign to someone else. Find my enemy, reassign. Ew.
Ew,
Okay.
696.
Well, our next watch is going to be Airborne. It was going to be, it's not anymore. It's impossible to find it without some weird, like, Howdy subscription. I'm not doing that. So we're going to swap it for a movie that's in our list later this year, but it's still on Netflix right now until the end of the month. So it's going away at the end of the month, April 30th. And I was like, let's watch it before it's gone. So our next watch actually just leaves the 90s just a little bit because it is Aaron Brockovich, which was filmed in the 90s, put out in 2000. It's a biographical drama starring Julia Roberts, telling the story of an unemployed, twice divorced mother who becomes a legal assistant and recovers or uncovers a massive water contamination scandal. She forces Pacific Gas and Electric Company (PG&E) to pay a record $333 million settlement for poisoning a California town's water supply. Now, this is based on a true story. This is the real
Writing that
story
down.
life. I mean, I think there's a little liberties taken here and there, but this is a real story of Aaron Brockovich. So watch the movie first, research second.
Okay.
Um, but definitely, yeah, like don't spoil it. I think it's really good to like to watch it. Very good movie. Like I said, Julie Roberts is like a 90s, like she was in so many movies in the 90s, and this ended and started her 2000s career. Um, but it was such a good movie. I didn't want Hannah to not be able to watch it, so I definitely plugged this one in. We were gonna watch it this fall, but since it's gonna be leaving Netflix, like let's watch it while we have it.
You know,
Um,
that's
so
fair.
do you have any questions?
No, I'm actually really excited for that because it kind of is giving like documentary in like the biographical realm. So I'm kind of excited. And Julia Roberts, as we know, I love
Julia
her.
Roberts.
Big
All
fan.
right, and we're gonna have to watch it. So, well, that's it for this episode of Millennial Meets Gen Z. Thank you all for hanging out with us, even though, like, if you're watching me, I'm like zooming in and out. Um, so thank you for watching along. If you're watching or listening along to us, hopefully you're still laughing about my ew license plate. Don't forget to follow this podcast so you can catch each new episode. Leave a review if you're enjoying it. Share it with your friends, young and old, even the ones who jump out at you and scream danger. So you can also find us on Instagram, Facebook. We'll put up some clips, photos, and other things more from this episode. So catch you next time. Be kind and rewind.
Bye, everybody. Thanks for listening or watching.